You're watching Educate India. In this video, we are going to learn how we can create EC2 instance in Amazon Cloud. So let's start. So I have already logged into AWS Management Console, and here we have search option. So we are going to search EC2. We need to click here, and this will redirect to a new page. So here we can see to get started, launch an Amazon EC2 instance, which is virtual server in the cloud. So we need to click on launch instance. And then we need to follow 7 basic steps. So first we need to select an AMI, then we need to select instance type, we need to configure the instance, add storage, add tags, and configure security group, and finally we are going to review and launch the instance. So in the first step we have to select an Amazon machine image. So Amazon is providing multiple images, so we can see like Amazon Linux or Mac OS or Red Hat or Ubuntu, Microsoft images, and there are many images you can see. So we are calling it Amazon machine image, and in some cases you will see like operating system with some softwares, so like Microsoft Windows Server with SQL Server standard. So there are multiple options with images. We can install software also, so we can select the image as per our need. But right now I want to create one Windows Server, so I'm going to select Microsoft Windows Server 2019 base. So let's click on select. In the next step, we are going to select the instance type. So in instance type also we have multiple options, like we can select nano type of instance or micro or small, medium, large, X large. So we can see we have a different vCPUs like 1, 2, 4, and we have different memories. So here we are going to select T2 micro, because if you'll notice, so this is free tier eligible. Micro instances are eligible for the AWS free usage tier. And for the first 12 months following your AWS sign up date, you get up to 750 hours of micro instances each month. Okay, so we are going to select T2 micro. Here we have to configure the instance details. So we need to define how many instance do we want. So we can define a number, like we want to launch 1 instance, 2 instance. So in a single run we'll be able to create multiple virtual machines. So right now we need only 1 instance, so we have selected 1. Second option is a purchasing option, that is request spot instances. We are not going to select it right now. And the third option is networking. So network option, so in the network you need to define a VPC. So right now it's selected the default VPC. So if you want to create new, you can click here, create new VPC, and here you can create a new VPC. Okay, so we are going to use default VPC, and then you need to select the subnet. So in subnet we can see we have many options. So many subnets are available in availability zone. So right now I'm going to select no preference. So once we selected the subnet, then we need to assign a public IP. So AWS is giving us option to enable or disable the public IP. So if you want to use public IP, we can enable it. So I'm going to enable it for now. And then we have some additional options like placement group, capacity reservation, domain join, AM role. So for now I'll not modify these things. So let's go to next step. So next step we have to add the storage. So we can add EBS volumes as a storage. So storage is like in your normal computer, you will find there are many drives like D drive, E drive. So you can add multiple storage EBS volume, and that will act as a drive. So let's say it's there is one EBS volume 30 GB, so it will add one drive in your computer. And if you want multiple drives, so you can add new volume, and you can define your new drive and size as per your need. So I'm going to select only one drive and then go to the next tab. So here we need to define the tags. So tags is nothing but it's just a key value pair. So we can define any key value pair, like you want to give name to the instance. So let's say name is Windows instance. We can define any n number of tags, like any cost center or billing information. You can just add the tag as a key value pair. Okay, so we are going to click on next. Here we need to create a new security group for our application, or if you already have created a security group, you can just select the existing security group. So we can add the rule, and you can just click on add rule, and you can add any kind of rule. So right now if you can see we have RDP rule. So we are going to do a remote connection to that machine, so that's why we have added RDP. It's giving one warning like rules with source 000 allow all IP address to access your instance. So right now this will not be secured because any IP address can access it. So if you want to limit the access, so you can just change it to my IP, or you can define any particular IP or any custom IP range you can define. But right now if you'll go with 000, so it is going to allow all IP address. Okay, and you can define a name to security group. So let's say I'm giving name like Win SG new. Okay, Win security group new. and you can define a description if you want. And then we need to click on review and launch. So you can see here also it's giving warning that improve your instance security. Your security group WinSGNew is open to the world. So we can limit the access. We need to add the rule in the security group, and that will limit the access. Okay, so in the final review page, we have multiple information, like we have AMI details, we have instance type, whatever we selected. So it is showing everything, whatever selected. So it's showing security group information, instance details. So we need to review our selection, and once we are satisfied with all the details, then we need to click on launch. And now this is the final step. So it's telling select an existing key pair or create a new key pair. So what is key pair? So key pair consists of a public key that AWS stores and a private key file that you store. So you need to store this private key file, and together they allow you to connect to your instance securely. So you need to store this file, and AWS will store public key file, and together they will allow to connect to your instance. So if you want to connect to Windows instance, then you will need the private key file to generate the password, and for Linux instance you will need the private key file to allow you to securely SSH, okay, into your instance. So we need to store the private key file to generate our password. Okay, so let's create one private key file, and we can define any name like win key, and we'll download this key pair. So we have downloaded the win key pem file. Okay, and now we can click on launch instance. So your instance are now launching. So AWS is trying to launch our instance. So we can click on this ID, and now we can see we have defined the name, Windows instance, then instance ID it has generated, instance state is running, and instance type is micro. So you can see all your information, and if you click on this instance ID, we can see all the summary, like what is the ID, what is the state of the instance, so it's running now, and all other information like what is the private IP address, what is the public IP address. So we have selected the public IP, so it has just generated one public IP. And at the down also you can see all the basic information about the instance, like what is the AMI ID, what is the platform, and some other information like monitoring is enabled or disabled. And then you can see the security related things in security. So it has generated a security group. So we have just given this name WinSGNew, and you can see the inbound and outbound rules. Okay, and in case of networking, we can see all the IP details. You can see the storage, like we have one disk attached, and that has size of 30 GB. Some additional options like status check and monitoring. So it can show you basic monitoring details to the instance, like what is the CPU utilization, what is the status check. And then finally we have tags. So in tag you can see whatever key value pair we give. So we gave a name, instance name, so that is showing in the tag. So we just saw all the details of instance. Now we are going to connect to this instance. So how can we connect that? So you have option to connect. Okay, so we'll click here, and here you can see RDP client. So we'll click here, and finally we have to get a password. So how can we get the password? We need to browse our private key file that we generated, and then we need to click on decrypt password. I just copied it, and then get the public IP. So we have this public IP. We can open the remote desktop connection, and the IP is 13.58.187.63. okay, and then we'll enter the credentials. And we'll provide the password. So you can see we have connected to our newly created EC2 instance, and we can click here and we can see the drive. So you can see we have one drive, and the memory is 30 GB that we attached, EBS volume. Okay, if you want additional drives, so you can add more volume, so more drives will appear here, and you have all the basic details here. So we'll minimize it. Here you just need to select the instance, and You have instance state, like if you want to stop the instance, you can click here. If you want to reboot it, if you want to terminate it, you can click here. So you have all the options to stop the instance or terminate the instance. Okay, so you can manage your instances from this AWS management console. So I hope you got the idea how you can create a EC2 instance in Amazon Web Services. In the upcoming videos, we'll try to explore more features of Amazon Web Services, like how we can create a load balancer, how we can create ECS cluster. So stay tuned, keep learning, and thanks for watching.